Killiansburg Cave Nightmare. In June 1992, 10 Boy Scouts set out to explore Killiansburg Cave, a small limestone cave hidden in the hills of West Virginia. Located near the Potomac River, the cave wasn't anything extraordinary, just a narrow system of twisting passages, but it offered enough mystery and challenge to excite a group of adventurous boys on a summer outing. Among them was 13-year-old Brian Quintanilla. Curious, wiry, and observant, Brian had a knack for noticing things others missed. While most of the group stuck to the main chambers, Brian's attention was drawn to a narrow passage off to the side. It looked tight, barely wide enough for his shoulders, but to him, it seemed like a hidden route, maybe a shortcut to another part of the cave. Without telling anyone, he crouched down and crawled inside. The passage was immediately confining. Cool, damp rock scraped against his sides as he inched forward. It twisted in an L shape, and when Brian reached the bend, he realized he'd need to contort himself to get through. He twisted his legs at an awkward angle, hyperextending his knees and pushing himself through with difficulty. Past the bend, the tunnel widened slightly. It was still tight, but he had room to breathe. For a moment, he felt triumphant. He'd done something brave, but that feeling vanished quickly. When he tried to move backward, he realized he was stuck. The bend he had just squeezed through had locked him in place. The angle of his legs and hips made reversing nearly impossible. He tried to wriggle back, but nothing moved. Panic set in. He was alone, deep inside a tunnel no one else had even noticed. Back in the main chamber, the rest of the scouts were regrouping. Someone realized there were only 9 of them. They began calling for Brian and retracing their steps. But no one knew he had entered a narrow passage, so they kept searching the larger areas of the cave. Deep in the rock, Brian could hear their voices. Though speaking was difficult in his twisted position, he managed to call back. Eventually, they heard him. His voice was muffled, full of fear. They followed the sound and discovered his legs sticking out of the narrow tunnel. A few tried pulling gently. Others called instructions. Nothing worked. He was firmly wedged in place. Inside, Brian struggled to breathe. His chest was compressed, and his legs were locked in a painful, hyperextended position. Every attempt to shift sent sharp pain through his body. He was lightheaded, nauseous, and terrified. Word reached the scout leader, who was also Brian's mother. She rushed to the cave and crawled into the passage until she could see her son's legs. She called his name. He responded, scared, crying but conscious. She realized the only way to free him was to reverse the movement he used to get in. Brian didn't want to do it. The pain was too intense. But she spoke calmly, clearly, and began helping him inch by inch. She gripped his ankles and guided him as he screamed in agony. His knees felt like they were being torn apart. His skin scraped along the rock. Outside, the other scouts stood silently, their faces pale as they listened to the sounds echoing from deep inside the tunnel. Finally, Brian's torso came free. With one last pull, she got him out. Brian collapsed in the wider passage, sobbing and trembling, but the panic didn't stop. The cave now felt suffocating. With his mother's help, he scrambled out of the tunnel, and they made their way back through the cave as fast as they could. When they emerged into the sunlight, Brian collapsed onto the grass. He gasped for air, his face pale and streaked with tears. The rest of the group stood nearby, silent. Brian recovered physically over the next few days, but the memory of that narrow tunnel and what it took to escape never left him.